Alright, back by popular demand and a lot of comments I've had in the past, I've decided to work on a formula for cleaning cartridge brass that's going to work very effectively and also be very cheap to do. In the past I had a video where I used Tide Pods. And Tide Pods worked really well for cleaning brass. But a lot of people said, well, this is not very cost effective, it's very expensive. And I can agree that's pretty expensive. But I've worked on a formula here that works really well and really inexpensively. I have some brass here. I've been keeping up on my brass cleaning, so a lot of these are actually nickel plated, which, you know, they still get crud on them like this, so you'll still be able to see some difference. And most of my brass here looks, you know, roughly like this. This is your average from the range brass. It looks kind of brown. So I don't have that much to work with, so I'm going to downscale my recipe here a little bit just to show you how it works. Now I have Tide detergent, I have hot water, I also have salt and vinegar. Now the thing about things like salt and vinegar, especially vinegar, this is very acidic. A lot of people have different recipes where they're using like lemon shine or lemon juice. They're using a lot of different citric acid type bases for cleaning, but the issue here is that stuff like this is very, very corrosive when it sits on brass or metal for any long periods of time. And most of the recipes you see for cleaning, they're putting a very acidic detergent or very acidic compound into their brass cleaning recipe, and then they're leaving it for hours, and then the brass will come out. Some of them will be pink, and it's pink because it's corroding it. So they're not taking that into account when they're doing this. Now this is very effective, salt and vinegar, but the thing you got to realize is that this has to be applied very quickly and rinsed off very quickly to be effective. It's just as effective in 2 minutes as what it is if you let it set for hours. However, if you rinse it off in less than 2 minutes, you're not going to get the corrosion. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to put the Tide in hot water, and we're going to soak these brass a little bit and kind of agitate them, and then at the last minute here we're going to put in some salt and vinegar, and before it has a chance to corrode, we're going to rinse it off, but there's still enough time for it to really take off that tarnish. And when you're done, you pretty much have brass that's going to come out. This is some of the last brass I cleaned like this. You're not going to get the corrosion on it, but it's going to be shiny and clean, and it's going to stay shiny. So basically what I'm going to do here, I have this old powder bucket. I like to use that. You want to put something, get something that's going to be much larger than how much brass you have, because you want to have plenty of room for agitation. Now what I'm going to do here, here's my recipe. This is a half gallon of hot water. Put a half gallon here. Which more than covers my brass. Half gallon water. Now for every half gallon I'm going to do about a half cap of Tide. A half of a cap. That's plenty. I'm going to put that in there. Basically what I'm going to do now is put the lid on this thing, and I'm going to aggressively agitate it like this. And I'll set this down, and I'm going to let it soak for, I'll do maybe about a half hour. That's all I need right now. It's about a half hour. That's sufficient time to let this soak in and do what it needs to do. And then we'll come back, we'll add some salt and vinegar, and then we'll hurry up and we'll rinse it to prevent the corrosion. And you'll be surprised with the results. So I'll be right back. Alright, it's been only 20 minutes. Kind of antsy on this one to get this, get these results. These are going to be nice. Okay, vinegar. This is about 1 cup of vinegar. So for every half gallon of water and half cup of Tide, we'll do 1 cup of vinegar. And I highly recommend what you're going to do next to be in a sink that is not in the kitchen or not
a bathroom sink where people brush their teeth, because there can be light contamination in that brass from the bullets and also from the actual primers themselves. All right, 1 cup of vinegar, and we're going to do a tablespoon of salt. At this point, I'm going to agitate this, and we're going to do no more than 60 to 120 seconds here. I'm going to put my sink stopper in there. I'm going to dump the whole thing right in the sink. Alright. I'm going to agitate it while it's in the sink. Yeah, stop. I'm going to agitate it while it's in the sink. And then we're going to rinse it very, very quickly. I'm going to put my hands in here and do this type of thing. I'll do about another 60 seconds or so. I'll show you some of the results so far. It's hard to see here at this angle, but certainly you can see the nickel plate. It's fine. With your brass color brass, I mean, they're looking like this. Alright, it's been about another minute. I'm going to drain off what's in here. Now I'm going to immediately start putting fresh water in here and starting to rinse these. This will be easy with this small batch to just run the water over the top and get most of the suds out. But I also like to fill the sink back up. And keep in mind, when you're done with this, please clean your sinks out. Even if you don't brush your teeth there, even though it's not in the kitchen, you know, spray it down with a cleaner, wipe it down. You don't want lead contamination when you're not expecting it. Alright, I'm going to drain this. I'm going to rinse this 2 or 3 times. The water, you know, the water doesn't have to be any certain temperature either. It doesn't really matter for the rinse. Just want to make sure you have no more suds, vinegar, salt, nothing in there. It's rinsed enough. I got all the suds out. I'm going to transport these down onto a towel here on the floor. Then I'll go in my reloading room and I'll show you what I do next. It's pretty simple. Pretty straightforward. It's pretty straightforward and simple. I put it all in the middle of the towel. And I can even do this with 300 brass. It's fine. And we make kind of a bag out of the thing. Hobo sack. Do this. It gets all the water out of the insides. Then we're going to roll it. Just dry it off like so. I'll roll it right onto the carpeting here in my reloading room. It's not a big deal. You can put it under a fan if you want. Boy, it's hard to tell the nickel from the brass ones because it's so good. Certainly the nickel ones are going to be great. They're all going to look like this. Primer pockets, these particular primer pockets are clean on the nickel plated because the nickel's so smooth. I mean, that's really not that bad at all. Here's your average brass one. You get a little bit in there, but you can take that off pretty easily. But let me pick out the brass ones here. I've been doing this method for months as well, and the results have been very, very nice. I mean, here's some of the brass ones. They all pretty much always look like that, and they'll stay looking like that. Almost as bright as the nickel-plated ones. Let me put it on the top of the bench. We'll take a closer look at that. There it is on top of the table here. Of course, the nickel-plated ones are going to be fine. They actually had a lot of crap on them, and it took it all right off. Over here on the brass, this is as clean as they're getting here. They almost look like the nickel. And I don't have any once fired or already fired brass. Here's a brass from a cartridge that This was like a previous method I was using with different types of detergent and whatnot. And this is generally what most reloaders will get as far as how clean the brass is if they don't have a tumbler. They can use all kinds of methods. That's about average right there. You compare it to my new method here. There's a big difference here in this method. It works really well. And you can go in the primer pockets if you choose with something. However, I've known reloaders and talked to reloaders where they never ever clean their primer pockets ever. And they say, you know, it doesn't even matter. It works fine. The inside of the brass, I can't even see inside the brass right now. The lighting's kind of poor, but I mean, yeah, it's not as clean in there, but you know, you reload some rounds with this, it's gonna be pretty nice. So that's what I do for my more cost-effective method for cleaning brass. So as always, thanks for watching.